Just matching the graphs. Use something like this if you need to. One thing I will point out here, if you notice, you remember cosecant is 1 over sine, right? So what we can see about that is anytime sine equals 0, where it crosses the x-axis here, anywhere sine is 0, we have a vertical asymptote for cosecant, okay? Same thing with cosine, anywhere cosine is 0, we have a vertical asymptote for secant, and same thing with tangent. It's just a little harder to see here because the y-axes aren't lined up, but when x is 0, tangent is 0. So down here we have the vertical asymptote at 0. Okay, what is the period? And let's go ahead and remember our basic transformation function, where D is our vertical shift, C is our horizontal shift or phase shift, B is it's our horizontal stretch or compression. That's also how we find our period, like we're going to do in this because depending on what the period is, the period is one complete cycle. If we have sine, it'd be one complete cycle would be like that, right? So if we change the period from here to here, well, that's going to compress it, right? Those definitely weren't to scale or anything. Just quick sketches. A is our amplitude, so that's going to be our vertical stretch. Okay, so the way that we find period, the period equals pi divided by b. In this one, that is pi divided by 5 over 19 is what's multiplied to x. Okay, so dividing fractions, let's write the pi as pi over 1 and flip the denominator and multiply. So we get 19 pi over 5 for our period here. Number 4, our amplitude is 2. We don't need that. We want the period and the horizontal shift. Okay. So our horizontal shift is this C here, but right now we don't have a C. We have to factor this out to get it into this form. Okay, so y equals 2 tangent of, we can factor an 8 out, right? So b is going to be 8, x minus 6. So c will be 6 plus 0 if you want to see it. So d, we have 0, no vertical shift at all. Horizontal shift is positive 6, right? And our period is pi divided by b, so pi over 8. Horizontal shift is 6 units to the right. Okay, remember, it's kind of opposite of what you might think initially for the horizontal shift. Because this parent function is minus, that's why we're shifting to the right. That means that our C value, which is actually the X value there, is a positive 6. Okay. Okay, exact same thing, just different numbers. quick note about number 6. The period of tangent and cotangent is pi, right? Or pi over b. But for everything else, for secant, sine, cosine, all those, it's 2 pi. So the period in this one is going to be 2 pi over b. So if we go ahead and write that factored out, we can factor out a 3, have x minus 2 left over. So in this one, 2 pi over b is our period. So 2 pi over 3. And we'll have to check that with the calculator. Yep. And our horizontal shift, 2 units to the right. Okay. The way that we're going to figure this out, we need to write an equation for this. The way that we're going to figure that out is by this. It's either going to be a secant or a cosecant function by the look of it. And one thing we can do is, first off, let's find our midline. Here's our minimum and maximums of our sine or cosine function. Looks like it's going to be the cosine function we'll use. And we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so 2, 3, 4. Here's our midline. 3, 4, and now we break it into fourths. So we'll be right in the middle here, and that's going to be on our midline. So we can draw that cosine. Now if we can write the equation of this cosine function, then we use our values for A, B, C, and D to write with write our secant or cosecant. Okay, so cosine and secant, the one that we're dealing with, the value is here at where x is 0, right? We'll look at this section here. And write an equation for that. Okay. So with cosine, our parent function, well, we can go ahead and let's just go ahead and write the obvious. Our midline, which is going to be our vertical shift that we're calling D. Our vertical shift is going to be up 1. Okay, horizontal shift, we don't have one because our maximum for our cosine function is our starting point here. So at the where x is 0, so no horizontal shift there, and also no reflection. So because if this would have been reflected down here, then we would be at the bottom, right? So no reflection. Our amplitude, our vertical shift, or vertical stretch, sorry. If we're usually at 1, well, what we do is we just count from the midline is the easiest way to do it. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So A is going to be a stretch of 4. Now we just need to find B, and our period equals 2 pi over B. Remember, it's 2 pi this time instead of just pi because we're not dealing with tangent or cotangent. Okay, so if 2 pi over B equals our period, let's set that equal to this period and count how many units one period is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we are in scale of 1. Okay, so 2 pi equals 6. Cross multiply, we get 2 pi equals 6b. Divide out our 6, and we get b equals pi over 3. Okay, so that's what the cosine function is, but the secant's going to be the same thing, just with secant using these values, right? So y equals 4 secant of pi over 3 times x minus 0, no shift there, plus 1. So y equals 4 secant pi over 3 x plus 1. This one here is going to be the same way, but I'm going to let y'all try it. It's slightly different, but you're going to do it the exact same way we did this last one. Okay, so try that out, and message instructor button if you have any questions.